Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough and painful lesson of how not to invade the Soviet Union here as we're being pushed back, and we're accepting a certain amount of retiring from the front. But hey, if you don't really have time to watch all this episode now, you know what you could do is just turn off the audio and minimize the volume. Or minimize the screen, not the volume. Get rid of it, and so that way, we get a playback through. It'll help the viewing count and make things go better if you could do so. I greatly appreciate that. And if you've watched it all the way through, you can do that again as well. Okay, they're coming back. These guys might just hold off with that. There it was. There we go. Start marching back to the front. You got a bit of organization. Winter is coming, snow begins to fall. We'll see how that affects our situation here. Defense and depth, very nice. I like defense and depth. I also like to know where we are with things. Which one? I'm always trying to learn what I'm doing. Does that sound weird? I don't know. Which? Either I'm looking for one that's progressed reasonably far across. Okay, well, is it? Guess it's one that's grayed out somewhere. And airborne assault tactics, that should be over here. Airborne. Oh, no, that'll be under here. Airborne assault tactics, there we go. Okay, we'll let that continue. And HMS Revenge is lost. Wow, okay. Somebody placed a Hungary. Yes, okay, you can have some freight aircraft. Tanks are made from steel. Our stockpiles are big enough as it is, so we don't need to do that. Take a quick look out here. I don't know where they lost it. I'm guessing in Asia. Okay, so Japan has not been able to push into Burma. They are advancing down here from the top slowly. Some of it was just a transport unit. And I guess they've recently made a naval landing here and are pushing back there. That's good. And they're messing around here, not very effectively. Okay, and it looks like about it for Japan. Just to give you a heads up. I looked it up, and the 4 was adopted in 1941 with new 20mm cannons. Very good, cool. Yeah, I don't keep up on all the variations of the BF or ME-109, however you want to call it. Italy, what would Italy like? Energy, you can have as much energy as you want. Build something with it though, please. Okay. Garrison down here shattered. I don't think these guys will be able to make it. Okay, change in plans. You come here to here. You keep coming down. You keep coming to this way down to here, maybe. I think we'll hold there. I think. Surprising there's still some Romanians out there. Most of them are all streaming home. Now let's look at supply mode. We can send in supplies up to here. That would be useful. Now you retreat to here. You're retreating to there because you are being chased by these guys. Oh well, you may get something. But we want to send supplies into Kirkness. Hopefully we still have enough convoys. Create a supply convoy. Will come out of no, Wilhelmshaven and Kiel. And we'll come up to Kirkness. Almost time. Yes, we'll see how that goes, Arno. What Soviets have a Marine division in the Baltics? Did the Soviets have Marine divisions historically? Actually, I was meaning to watch. I think it was saw a video. I think it was I'm trying to remember how to pronounce it. Drachinafil. I think he does really good naval videos, and was asking the question in the title, and I would really like to know: did the Japanese have Marines, or just sailors armed with rifles, or something equivalent like that? Naval infantry, is sometimes it's called. Because we can appreciate on a small scale that the Royal Marines of Britain is a very good fighting unit that is set up for amphibious warfare. On a much larger scale, really only getting large really in World War II. It sort of got up to, I think fielded one Marine division in World War I. They had other units around. But ever since World War II, it's only recently they've demobilized their two armored brigade or battalions for the United States Marines. I actually agree with them demobilizing or getting rid of the armored battalions for the Marines, because they don't need to be mechanized heavy ground forces. But I'm of the opinion that they should still keep a company or two of M1 Abrams and keep the cruise training and use United States Army, to sort of explain it. And I understand why. I understand at least some of the elements of why they decided to totally get rid of them. One of the elements is training and support. You need a whole logistical element, a training school, and all of that type of stuff to properly support an arm of warfare, like surface-to-air missiles. And I'm not talking just like guys with shoulder-fire surface-to-air missiles. I'm talking like Patriot missile batteries and large-scale stuff. The United States Marine Corps should not have Patriot missile batteries. I don't think they do. Who knows? They might, but I don't think they do. They should rely upon either the naval, ships off sea for something like that, or if it's a big enough operation, deploy an army Patriot missile battery. Meaning if the area is safe enough, because you don't deploy a Patriot missile battery into live fire zone where there's bullets flying back and forth very much, because weapons will get chewed up. They're sort of rear area weapons. If there's enough of a threat, if there's enough thing, just simply bring in U.S. Army to operate a Patriot missile battery. So that's, in sort of large-scale anti-air operations, for ground forces. So the Marines really don't need to do that, in my opinion. And so I understand why they decided to totally get rid of it, because they couldn't. The cost of supporting a company or two of tanks is probably, in their minds, is going to be too much. I would have kept them, but just did, train with the Army. Send the United States Marine Corps soldiers that are going to drive the tanks to the Army schools. Do all of that type of thing to support them and keep them there, because their LCACs, they're sort of their air cushion landing craft, can only carry one per LCAC. It's not so much the weight; they could probably get away with two on the weight, but just dimensions they can't fit to. Because I remember a Marine Corps buddy of mine who was a Marine Corps armored guy, drove M60s before the M1 Abrams were, I think, a thing, or definitely before the Marine Corps ever got any. They could put 3 M60s on them, but only one Abrams. But so you can still deploy them. They can still come across, on the initial beach landings, kind of thing. Air cushion, come storming ashore with some real tanks. Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. And tanks for the Marine Corps should not be used, and I'll use this term, like panzers in a, armored thrust that's moving along. That's not what the Marine Corps is for. It is, Marine landing infantry that's really good. Tanks there should be integrated as support units, not as, a main maneuver thrust kind of battlefield situation, but show up on the beach with a bunch of other Marines, and there's just a couple of them there, or 4, like a tank platoon of 4 of them show up and give fire support to what the rest of the Marine Corps operation do. And that way, that once they get their basic training, how to drive a tank, how to shoot a tank, tactical elements, then they go train a lot with their other Marine Corps units, so they're integrated, so they both they know how each other thinks and works and does things. And that's an important element with any sort of fighting. And it would be good to have them. I know I'm digressing. Oh, and 1.5 months. Okay, I know. And so, yeah, now there was, and so, okay, so you can, naval infantry. Historically, naval infantry goes way back, easily to the 18th century. Now, and I'm going to discount anything like we talk about, the Greeks who used, galleys, various types of trimarines and bigger quadrimes or whatever, bigger rowing ships there. And most of those, the warships, were not rowed by slaves for the Greeks. I think the Romans did more slave rowing for their warships. All of those crews were warriors to whatever degree they were warriors, and were expected to fight as well as row the ships. They were expected to be motivated. So we're not going to talk about those because that's just out of scope. But from the 18th century on, there was naval infantry. Now, Britain had, and it's starting in more or less the 18th century, maybe slightly before, but certain units of the Army started to more routinely be stationed on board ships. Eventually, that's where the Royal Marines comes from, and they're sort of specific designated units. They're sort of their own thing, and it does change over the years. Eventually, they become sort of a subdivision of the Navy, but at first they're Army units, and then they're sort of gray areas for some of the stuff, but for some units. And by the time we're getting into the 20th century, the Marines are, the United States Marine Corps goes way back as well into the 18th century. They are an elite landing force, is what we call them. But there's always been, within this time period, naval infantry. And basically, if we're looking at the 18th century, we're looking at just simply sailors deployed ashore, often as gunners. They would unload, the old, black powder tubes type, guns from ships, put them on shore, to maybe into a ground battery, larger wheels, to be towed operation on, land-based stuff, but often just simply the naval guns and naval carriages, either to bombard a fort, to help take it, or to defend a fort. But the guns not just need crews, but need support, because if the enemy attacks, and this way they can defend the guns, because sailors were trained how to load and shoot muskets, because they did lots of boarding actions and whatnot, and defense against boarding actions. But they're not well drilled to do army maneuvers, to maneuver battalions around, like you would see in the 18th century in the Napoleonic Wars and whatnot. They weren't trained to do that, but they could go somewhere, load and shoot, and sort of kind of move as a group and sort of kind of do stuff, but would sort of suck as infantry. But they were better than nothing, and for defending a relatively immobile, the Volkssturm was more than that. I can talk about the Volkssturm in just a minute, but it was more than just teenagers and elderly citizens. That's for damn sure. But we'll get to that in a moment. It's another topic. So you wanted to keep your proper Army battalions moving around under coordination and control, and you have a relatively immovable thing like the artillery, and so you just have a bunch of extra sailors there with guns to sort of shoot it, whether it's an enemy, ground fort, not ground fort, enemy infantry element coming up, or the more worrisome cavalry charge to capture the guns. You got a bunch of guys standing there to shoot muskets. Right. Well, most warships, up and through World War II at least, and I don't know if they're continuing, I don't think so much, but most warships up until through World War II had enough rifles on board the warship to give one rifle to every member of the crew. Not always the case, I'm sure, but that was the most common, or at least most people on board the crew. I don't know if it was always or common to be a one-for-one situation. And we can see the situation that happened up here in Narvik in World War II. And yes, I do sort of try to link these things together, in which there were several German warships, mostly I think destroyers here, but that were sunk, some in port, some out at sea, but there were a large number of German sailors that survived the sinking of the ships. Again, some of them were, in the fjords or, in port, and they were just, bombed by aircraft and, sent to the bottom, or which may just be a few feet down. It's the ship is still maybe more than, the decks are still above the water or something maybe. Well, they land all this extra sailors, and they do their best, often from the ships, to give all the sailors rifles and bullets, because basic sailor training is one element is how to shoot the normal rifle of the day. For the Germans, it was the Mauser Karabiner 98K Hertz for short, because it's a short Mauser rifle. And so they had a bunch of those, so they issued them out. So they become naval infantry. Naval infantry is not normally very good infantry because they don't spend their time learning infantry tactics. They just know the basics, you know. If somebody's shooting at you, you get down. You know, this is how you load and fire a gun, kind of thing. And it's not zero training, but it's not very good. It's not normal training. Right. Okay. The Soviets. I don't know how much their Marine or naval infantry units got training. We can see prior to the Soviets, things that are becoming the Soviets, you have the, I forget the battleship name. Was it, no, Potemkin was somewhere else. I forget. The battleship where the sailors come in and take, at that point it was Petrograd, I think the name had changed to or whatever. From St. Petersburg to Petrograd during World War I, you know, sparking off the October Revolution, sailors coming in with guns from, you know, their ship to do it. So you have the situation where you don't need your ships so much, including some stuff in Leningrad during the siege. They had a few ships that were sort of partially complete or sort of stuck in port. Well, you don't need all the sailors to do all the stuff. Maybe you're keeping some on board to fire some of the big guns back at, counter battery siege fire type stuff. But you don't need all the sailors on board the ships. So you put them into the front lines. One of the things that really sparked the end of Germany in World War I was when the German High Command realized, we've had that one battle out at Jutland. It did sort of okay. Actually, it's normally said tactically the Germans win, strategically the British win. And that is because Germany does more damage to Britain than Britain does to Germany, but the German High Seas Fleet never sallies forth again. Well, I think it was they were sort of realizing, we need more bodies on the Western Front, so we're going to take all you sailors that have been sitting in port all this war, except for the one really cool battle that you did, and we're going to take a bunch of you and put you down to go to fight, and the sailors go, no. So, yeah, that would be naval infantry, and you might give them some training. I suspect for the Soviets, it was probably mostly just sailors. I suspect most of this stuff would be sailors giving arms because their navy becomes less and less useful on a big scale, so might as well give them rifles and send them to the front. There very well may be some units that would be good, naval or sea landing soldier types that are well trained for that. Truly well trained, not just get trained on the battlefield. Japan's case is, I think they are more Marines, although I want to watch the videos. I started this whole thing. That you have the split between the Army and the Navy. And I want to see some videos talking about an aircraft carrier, at least one, that the Japanese Army, not the Navy, the Japanese Army operated. And I know the Japanese Army operated some submarines. Now, these submarines may have had some torpedoes on them, but they weren't meant to go sink other ships. They were supply submarines, cheaply built to run supplies to some of the garrisons on some of these islands that they had there. And the Army decided, well, we need to get supplies to our Army troops because the Navy isn't doing it, because the Navy can't, mostly, not an unwillingness and an inability. And so they built these cheap submarines. And they also had towed behind them that would go underwater, big sort of, underwater containers to tow more supplies with them. I don't know if those were just one-way tow and drop off or whatnot. So the Army were operating some naval units. They both had their own air forces, because it was more the Army Air Force for Japan and the Navy Air Force for Japan. The Navy needed troops because there were political divisions between the Army and the Navy, and there was almost a civil war at one point in Japan, not actually in Japan, before the start of World War II. Between the Army and the Navy, and so the Japanese Navy wanted ground troops because it did not feel it could rely upon, if it decided to do a naval landing somewhere, that it could ask the Army, and the Army would say yes to it, to giving them, ground units. So that's sort of my thing on Marines. Now, I'm a moron. Don't trust a word I say. I don't know. I don't think you're a moron. Naval infantry shooting it. Yeah, ships and muskets as well. Yeah, that's where it sort of comes out. In the early 18th century, they would put soldiers on board ships. Well, certain regiments in the British Army got in a bit more of a tradition of being broken up into smaller units, because instead of being as one regiment or battalion or whatever, or working together, to be broken up and placed on board a bunch of ships. And that is the start of the Royal Marines. Eventually, by the Napoleonic Wars, I don't know where this comes in, there are specifically more Royal Marine units, and they are distinctly different from the Army. I do not believe they're under the control of the Army, but they are under naval control, but they're sort of their own thing. They're sort of separate chain of command, but sort of under the Navy. But even until and definitely like during the American Revolutionary War, definitely during the Napoleonic War, there were Army units that were either temporarily, and I mean temporarily as in for a few months. I don't mean like for, a few hours, like evacuating, Boston or something, when the British Army evacuates Boston or something, for just one voyage with soldiers acting as Marines. I mean specifically breaking up a unit. We need more, we're at war with the Americans, and we have, 2,000 Royal Marines for the whole British Navy, but we're, doubling or tripling or quadrupling the size of the Navy. We need more, effectively more Marines. Well, just take some of these battalions, the Army battalions, and, 20 on this ship, 50 on this ship, 100 on this ship, whatever, depending on the size of the ship, and stick these Army soldiers, not permanently, but maybe permanently for the duration of the conflict, but not, they're not given over to the Royal Marines. They're still Army units, but are putting on mid to longish term sea service, and that was still going on in the Napoleonic wars, because the British Navy is getting big and they don't have enough proper Royal Marines. So when I talk about this stuff, and I don't know the exact cutoff dates and when all these different things transition, but yeah, and so they would shoot at each other. Leningrad? Well, no, I was talking before. I was talking when the Tsars still owned Russia, but they wanted to change the name from St. Petersburg, a German name, to Petrograd, a Russian name. And then after that, why did the Japanese Army and the Navy hate each other so much? Political differences. They were two very different institutions. For a while, Admiral Yamamoto was against going to war with America. For a while, he was trapped aboard a battleship. I mean, he could have gotten into some other ship, but he couldn't leave the ship because there were known or thought, I don't know quite the detail, but thought to be Army units stationed around the Navy base ready to arrest him. for whatever reasons. So yeah, and there was at one point in the 30s that some of the naval elements were getting ready to naval aircraft elements getting ready to go bomb Japanese army units based in and around Tokyo, because they're down in Yokohama down here. This is the major naval base, and the sort of Japanese, it was going to be sort of a naval coup against army control of the government. So yeah, it gets pretty messy between them, and they are different. And I think it's an interesting question, Butter, but I think it goes back to the forming of the two different forces. They both come out of samurai type backgrounds, bushi / samurai, but they become institutionally different at their formations in the transition from the shogunate to true imperial government and modernization of Japan. And since neither of them are influencing government policy through the ballot box, like vote for this faction or vote for the other faction, the only way that they can compete is with arms. Now, they don't actually ever really come to fighting, but the Japanese army kills the Japanese prime minister in, what is it, 1934 or 1935? The democratically elected Japanese prime minister is assassinated by a bunch of army officers, junior to mid-ranking army officers, but with the tacit approval of some of the higher ups. They sort of knew what was going on and didn't stop it, basically. And the Japanese Tojo, who comes from the military police, the Kempitai in Manchukuo, that was his sort of previous command, he eventually becomes prime minister of Japan and wants to attack America, as well as the British, to get oil, and the Dutch down to get oil in the Dutch East Indies. And the Navy's saying no, because we'll lose. And it's finally a bribe of steel, of a huge amount of steel that we'll give you to build ships, that finally gets, plus other pressures, finally gets the Navy, because really you can't go to war with America without the Navy, because the Army can't get there. The Army can't get to Singapore without the Navy. It just doesn't have the ability to go to Singapore. They're hanging out in Dutch, in the Indochina. They could try to come this way, but this is still a lot of jungle down here. There's really no roads. This is a bit overdone for the amount of units moving around here. You just die through here back then. So you really can't get down into the oil without the Navy. So the Navy does agree. Yamamoto's against it, but Yamamoto isn't the most senior admiral, and he isn't the one controlling the Japanese Navy. But he's, of course, seen to be the best naval commander in the Japanese Navy. And he, is against going to war there. Okay, well, enough of the talking of all that. Let's continue our losing. Oh, we had a major victory here. Okay, province lost part would be this. We won here. Okay, well, we won it here. Yes, we won here. Good. Okay, well, these guys are moving, but way too slowly to probably do enough good. Okay, we've lost a province. We're okay down here, because that's where we're going to lose a lot of provinces, a lot of province notifications down here. Defense and depth. Okay, that's good. Good, we're going to get some money, some supplies, nice, 1%. We don't need any coal, so not right now. Lose descent. I'm waiting for these, because if you don't do this will get you to a descent, but this will reduce descent, reduce descent, reduce descent. And we've almost got rid of all of our descent. Yay. This is why I sort of was going to stop, because we're not going to hold here, and I don't think we're going to hold here, and I think we're going to... I don't know. Don't know if we can retreat out in enough time. Another Jaeger division shattered. What a surprise. Okay. Under attack, and you're moving back in. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. It was one of these over here, was it? No, it was... Oh, it was our special Jaegers over here that just got munched. Okay. Ouch. Well, maybe we'll send these guys up to Finland. I don't know if they'll get there in any useful amount of time. Don't know where we'll send this stuff. This unit did fight pretty damn well. With a special purpose armor. Which is not very good for armor, but it's very good for, you know, naval landings. Yep, you're gonna get... Okay, you're gonna be just fine, I think. Yeah, because they're putting... Okay, capital ship. They control computers, nice. No, they're not computers you can play video games on. But you get to play it in real life. How much oil did the Dutch East Indies have compared to other countries? Large amounts. They still have fairly large amounts of oil down there, so more than enough, but they didn't have enough for Japan's needs. More than enough, but they didn't have enough extraction ability. So if you understand, one, the Dutch destroy a bunch of the oil infrastructure. I don't think they set into the oil fields on fire as so much as just simply destroy the extraction infrastructure. You know, I don't know if it's you do understand that normally when you first drill down into an oil deposit, and you've probably seen on oil, you know, some old film of an oil gusher. Well, you really don't want that to continue much, because that's just spilled and wasted oil normally. I mean, you can sort of, you know, suck it up and use it and get the dirt out of it and, you know, strain it and refine it. That's part of the refining process. So normally you cap it off. Well, at first, because it's normally the oil under the ground is under a certain amount of pressure. So at first it will artesian, it's called, or, you know, gush out of the ground. At some point, it'll stop doing that. And that's when you have to get the, you know, the oil wells, things that you see that go up and down, that pump the oil out. And then, as we've learned now, and only I think in the last 20 or 30 years really have we learned this, because they're going back, particularly in the United States, but I also think other places, into oil fields that were pumped dry in the past. They're going back and finding oil, is because there's a lot of oil that has either always was, or just generally because of the pressure, it's seeped into the we'll call it the ground. You know, it could be different types of rocks or whatever. And because you've pumped all that oil out of there, it now, because it's all that other oil in it, maybe at really minute little bit levels, that slowly seeps out into the void pockets over time and refills back up. And I don't know that we're really clear on how much is out there that's going to possibly keep refilling these voids, because we're learning a lot of voids that, like by the 70s or the 80s, that had run out, big oil strikes that are, wherever, that they're going back and looking now, and they're finding lots of oil there. So, yeah, I don't know whether the oil needed to be pumped by this stage in particularly Borneo here. Whether it needed to be pumped or was still artesianing, but you have not only the pumping out, you have the different levels of transportation, and then of course, the big ships, they can burn the oil straight out of the ground, though it's better if it's refined to some degree. For like motor oil, that you to oil an engine, you needed to refine it a moderate amount. To get it into gasoline, and particularly like aviation gasoline, you got to refine it a lot more. So it's all of that infrastructural elements that Japan is having hard time. So it's probably enough oil, but Japan never gets enough oil that it's comfortable. Kind of thing. So it's as much about infrastructure, because if you're still getting oil out of these oil wells, the Sultan of Brunei, who's somewhere over here, I think, he's very rich from his oil deposits, and they're still getting oil out in some of these wherever it is. No, wrong button. Yeah, over here. They're still getting oil out there. This is just an estimation for this game of what they were getting back then. Down here, Bali Papan. Lots of oil they got down here. So yeah. They had a lot in Borneo and Tarakan, Balikpapan, which they torched when the Japanese invaded, and a lot in Sumatra, which they also burned. The Japanese were not happy. The Japanese were not happy that happened, but they got it back into significant production. And I know I've said this before, but it was either here or here that they eventually moved the bulk of the Japanese Navy, because of the oil that was here. So instead of having to ship the oil to, whether it was out at Truk Island or up to Japan, which they were still shipping the oil just to get what they could out, by having the fleet sit out here, they could supply direct from the source without having to ship it anywhere. And so late in the war, for a while, they kept the fleet there until they needed it up, I think, in the Philippines, where a lot of it gets sunk. Okay, we've had a major victory. We've won that battle. We're having a version, whatever. We've lost this province. Okay, we won here. Okay, well, we've won here. Good. Now that we've lost our special purpose armor. These guys are moving. These guys are moving. All right, well. Took out a liner. Good. And anything we're killing is good. Okay, we had a unit shattered. Is that one of these? No, that's not doing one. Where did the... Oh, here. Oh, we moved him to the front line to hold, because he had the cavalry regiment. Okay, Italian division just shattered. Okay. Loaned Italian division, but yeah. Anything else we want to particularly deploy now? Not really. Yeah, we're losing units over here. Yeah, move your garrison up here. We're going to garrison there. Hopefully you can hold there. Hopefully this garrison here will hold. And we got a little bit there. Gas ground crew, we'll let that go. SS heavy tank unit, yes. Yes, I hate these things. We have plenty of money, don't we? Yes, but I may cheat myself in more because, again, I hate the way that whole thing works. I'm totally against it. Okay, well, let's leave the supplies as they are. Okay, well, hold on. Okay, yes. They're coming to here. Strategically redeploy, get back across there. Try to hold along this river here, I guess. Supply there. So we can win where we have some supply levels. Here, we just won. Yeah, where we have supply, we can win. Like here. And these are just mountain troops and garrison soldiers against armor. See, that's some of the things, because we can see there's some armor units in there and some mechanized forces and whatnot. And we're not fighting in the mountains. Now we are fighting in the snows, so that is a help for us. Could you upgrade some divisions? You deploy garrison divisions. Yeah, these police. Okay, well, yeah, there's actually a couple of the Festoon units there. That could go up there. Let's drop them here. They're not very good. These were meant to be sort of beach or port defense. These police units here will be no good at the front lines. They're purely revolt. Oh, we have although it's just a regiment. I'll leave the regiment there, and we'll leave whoever they auto assigned there. Okay, let's put you on board. Put you on board. And we're going to send you to here. Rebase. Move one out here, okay. Single fighter prototype, or single engine fighter prototype. Okay, grayed out. Conf Group A advances. It's gotta be, isn't it, one of these? Nope. I just, oh, well, no, that's down here, I think. No? Combined arms. Spearhead doctrine. Is it here that I'm just missing it? Air liaison pack front. Oh, here, up here, yeah. Oh, good. I was looking more over here. Okay, good. Yep. Organization morale, nice. One more unit shatter because of it. And CAG pilot training advance. We're going to let that go, but we got more. We'll do air liaison or ground attack efficiency. That's good. Panzer Skrak. Mine got yes, mine got no. Of course, hell yes. Motorized Panzer Skrak arrival of Soviet greater numbers. Okay, fortify the Channel Islands until forget it. We're gonna forget it. We're gonna not fortify the Channel Islands. We give them supplies each day. No, we're not selling off our supplies. We got a lot, but I'm not selling them off to you. Okay, so what did we just get a bunch of? No, they would be deployed. There we are. Okay, so these guys have got to build up. Well, I guess we'll send these guys out here. They need to go integrated into another division, so some division out somewhere will need to be shifted around to maybe remove the regular pack unit or something and add these to a better tank killing unit. Now where, and I didn't read the event, but I sort of know where a lot of these units came from is home, back home in Germany, anti-air units. At least that's my understanding historically where they came from. One sitting down here. And so we'll get them to the front, get them a bit more organized and reinforced. And then we will integrate them into some unit and maybe make us, I'm not sure whether we'll put them into a standard infantry division and give it some civilian transport levels, or just move the heavy flak into a already motorized unit. Not sure. Okay, now that light infantry regiment, which I haven't deployed, as low on supplies used right now, yes, to retreat. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm doing. Where I have supplies, I'm able to hold the line. Like I've gotten here, this is all, completely solid. Where it is solid here, we're doing okay for supplies. Here it's just that, and hopefully these Italians will get out of here and we'll be able to get more supplies before come down here and be completely wrecked. Don't know if I want to upgrade either one of those units right now. Well, here we're pretty good holding positions. This swamp is almost impenetrable for them. The only thing I really sort of wish I had here would be an anti-tank gun added to that, but otherwise we're doing pretty well. Down here, you're moving fast enough. How many units are attacking you? Okay, you have Spanish infantry division you can use in Russia. Yeah, I know. Oh, and the reason I created this light infantry regiment and a couple of other infantry regiments were to mix in for some units for assaulting some cities, because I thought they would do good. Yeah, I know. I'm just more worried about the Americans coming in and wanting to defeat them. And because, again, yeah, down here, if I had moved them early enough, fast enough, and got them here, it would have been good, and I should have done it. Okay, I'm not going to argue whether I should or shouldn't have done that. I should have, okay? It just, clearly I should have. I did not do so. For good or bad reasons, we can talk about that, but I should have moved them down here. I've got enough forces on the Eastern Front. Okay, I'll just say straight up, I've got enough forces here, but it's just like these have no supply. So it's not a question of needing more units. No, I strategically redeploy you. It's not a question of needing more units. It's a question of needing more supply. Okay, let's grab a couple of these units and send them here, ones without supply, so we don't overburden this too much, just for when the enemy show up. Maybe we'll have so it's not so much more units from somewhere else in most cases. Okay, well, let's see. This one, they currently estimate we'll get this in December 1945. Oh, we're in October 42, so not that long, Arno. We'll have it, a few years. That's mostly because we're probably, we only have a little bit of 14%. We have these other units that are much further along that I'd rather have done. Okay, we really don't need that commando unit, and it's taking up 9, so we're going to get that out of there. Okay, where we have some of these guys coming in October and December and October, so this will come a little faster now that we got rid of that. But yeah, it's not anytime soon. Okay, these guys are being pushed out already. Okay. Okay, you fall back to there. You fall back, you fall back. Yeah. Yeah, they did have anti-tank. One of the units did have anti-tank guns, but well, we took out a few more subs. Nice. We're close to getting some infrastructure improvements, which will help our supply. Major victory. Okay, we won here. Nice. And we won over there. Good. And we lost Geberg's Jaeger division, which was one of the ones down here. Yay! Oh god, I don't know. Sending these guys down here, I don't know if I should or not, but how much of a difference do those divisions going to make in the Eastern Front once they get deployed? I don't think a lot, quite honestly. I think it's supply. Do understand that as you advance in this game, when you take a province, you capture the supply in the province. If I'm able to keep my momentum up, I'm able to keep advancing and taking supplies and keeping supplied that way. I just did not have the ability to keep the momentum up. There's reasons, but yeah. Amphibious unit training. We'll let that continue. That's 1938. Army Spearhead advance. I think that's over here. Yeah, we'll let that continue. But we're going to save this and we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank you all who made it this far. I really do appreciate it. Now, do remember, if you like, now that this is over, You can replay this division, but then once you get the video going, or not replay this division, replay this episode. Once you get it going, you can simply turn the audio off and minimize the screen and go on about your day. And I get a second view and help out and it's not so much that I get the second view. It's that it shows YouTube that, hey, people are interested in to watch this more, so they will recommend it to more people, and hopefully those more people will want to watch and do all this stuff. So I want to thank you all who do that so much. I really do appreciate it. See you next.